Hi, nice to meet you.
Hi, Marie.
Thank you for being here with us today. Just to introduce myself a bit, so I'm Marie. I'm volunteering at Mais Cidadania in Lisbon. I come from France. And for the Media Literacy Month, we invited you to come for we can interview you. So welcome to the interview of António Jorge Gonçalves. António, please, can you present a bit your career and your different experiences? Because we saw that you have a really rich way, like you did a lot of things, a lot of travel. So can you present you a bit, please?
Sure. I do work with drawing. I always did drawings, as many part of us, since I was a kid, but I always had a special thing for it. So I used it in many different ways. I'm just going to show you some images of some of the few things that I do for you to have an idea. For instance, I always bring my sketchbook with me. So all the times I'm drawing both what I see and things that I imagine. I like to draw people in the cities and to watch the way that they occupy the space within the city. I do many different techniques for the time being. For example, right now I'm using these black books, these books with black paper, drawing with a white pencil, like making drawings like the one that you're watching now. And one of my projects that was really based on the drawings that I was making in these sketchbooks was Subway Life, a project where I traveled around the world drawing people sitting on subway trains. I did many drawings, spent many time in the 5 continents, and these are just some of these drawings that I've made, drawings that I was making of people without asking them permission to. I was just sit there in some places like Moscow or Cairo. I didn't even could speak their language. So it was this experience of making these drawings among these people. The main thing professionally that I've been doing since I was small, even before being professional, it's comic books. I did and published many books in different styles, working just myself, creating my own stories and working with writers as well. Sometimes these stories have a bit of adventure flavor. Other times they are more introspective, like this one, which is rather about my own dreams and obsessions. I think that drawing is my way to express what I feel about the world, and especially to express things that I can't find a way to express through words. So drawing is my form of writing, let's say. I did both adult books and both books for children, like these ones. The rules are always the same. I like to put in drawings these emotions, these ways that I see the world, but I like to put it on layers. Like, for example, this is a page of a children's book that I did. Obviously, this tree reminds a brain, the form of a brain. It's something that a young kid wouldn't recognize, but their parents or the teachers who are helping them to read the story will recognize. So I like my drawings to have different layers that can be understood by different people, depending on the experience that they have of the world. Quite often, I feel that these characters that I imagine, they have a little bit of myself, in the sense that quite often they are characters that don't fit really well in society, in the group, like the story of this girl that grew too big, bigger than anything else, so she couldn't really fit where all the other kids could fit. I guess drawing is a part of my life that helps me to deal with that feeling. And the book, the printed paper, the newspaper, all the printed drawings have been my universe for a lot of time. But more recently, in the last 20 years, I've been sharing another activity as well, which is to draw live, to make my drawing live and have them projected. And I've been doing it with dancers. I've been doing it with many different types of musicians. I tend to do it in an improvised way, like I don't know what I'll be doing. I'll just improvise. I tend to create my own shows, telling my own stories with musicians and actors and other artists, combining my life drawing with other set design elements. As this performance side of my work has been essentially a collaborating part, in the sense, like, for instance, in this show that you see the picture now, I work with the writer that's writing his own story live and having these words projected, and with the pianist. So it's like an improvised game between three people who are from different artistic areas. And I've been projecting my drawings and doing these shows in many places, either indoors or outdoors. For instance, like in this rap concert, I do like to work outside and have these projected on the public space as well. It's very nice. So I am a political cartoonist as well. I will wait for later in this conversation for us to talk about that.
Thank you. That's really fantastic. Your work is amazing. We really see a lot of emotions in your work and a lot of meanings. It's really fantastic. When we saw your project Subway, we were really touched because it's a project that touched everyone and that shows a lot of diversity. So we were wondering what inspired you with this project.
The Subway Life project started as a game, actually. It was a time that I moved from Lisbon, which is my own town, to London to study there and to be there for a while. What happened was that I invented a lot of games, chance games, like in the sense that all the time we are taking decisions. We are taking decisions on how do we dress, how do we cut our hair, what do we ask to people, how do we behave. We're making choices all the time. So I felt a bit trapped with that, in the sense that choices are strategies that we take considering what we know. And as an artist, I'm very interested in what I don't know, because it can be very inspirational. So I found games, little games in my daily life that could trigger that. One of the games was that I had to spend a lot of time on subway, going from one side to the other in such a large space as London. So I decided to do this game for this travel, which was I was obliged to draw the person that was in front of me. And if it was late at night and there was nobody sitting in front of me, I will have to draw the person that was closest from my point of view. So I couldn't choose who to draw. I had to choose to draw who was there. It was very interesting as a game. I started doing it in London, then I came back to Lisbon and kept doing it in Subway in Lisbon. And one day I realized that I wanted to use that as an excuse to travel around the world and to see how it will be, this experience. I guess that there were two things that really, that were very strong as an experience. The first one was that I was used to draw in the quietness of my studio. And if some of you that are listening to this conversation, if you like to draw, you'll probably know that normally people who draw don't like witnesses of their own drawings. They're not like people looking at their drawings while they're being made. It's quite a sort of a general characteristic of people who draw. So that was a big challenge, because in one side, the subway is not a quiet place. it shakes, it moves, and I didn't know how long I had to draw each person. That person could just leave in the next train stop. So I had to hurry, but not to hurry too much, because, you know, I needed the time to make sense of a drawing. So that was one part. The other part was that I was surrounded by people as well, who sometimes made comments. Like I remember, for instance, in Cairo, for instance, sometimes I have almost all the people that were in that carriage commenting to the person who's being portrayed about how the drawing was going. So that could be very intimidating as well. And I've learned to deal with it. From this experience came this sense of making a drawing with people, rather than making a drawing for people to see afterwards. So I guess this sharing experience from the artistic point of view, the idea of doing something artistically at the same time that people are watching it to be born, it was the strongest thing that came out of this project. And I guess it was very important for me to start doing afterwards my live drawing shows. I think that I was able to go out for a stage on the street and to be drawing in public because I've learned this in my Subway Life project.
Thank you. That's really interesting, a very challenging project. And you learn a lot about with this project and about learning. We are really interesting too to know what brings you to teach to others, because it's really something inspirational to actually give your knowledge and share your knowledge, with others people. So what brings you to teach to others people?
Yeah, I never consider myself a teacher before. It wasn't something that I thought I am that kind of person. Not really. But I guess what happened at a certain point is that I mean, I've been doing this. I've been creating drawings and doing something artistic with it since I was small. That was the thing that I always did. And because of that, because somebody who spends a lot of time doing the same thing happens to learn by himself a lot of things by experience. And there was a point some time ago, some years ago, that I realized that I was having experience, especially like with these live drawing shows. There aren't many people doing this kind of work. So I had to find a way to do things. I had to create a system and an approach to things. And I realized that that was very useful to share with the others. And more recently, more and more each year recently, I do feel that there is an emotional side to it as well. By doing all my path, my way as an artist, and watching all my colleagues and people that I knew, people very talented, people were able to do it and to make their lives into artistic careers, and others that couldn't do, I end up myself thinking that some support is needed, support in the sense of experience. I think that just looking from an artistic point of view, I think that artists should help others who are starting to deal and to face with things that schools don't tell you normally. There's a need to be strong, and there's a need to be to overcome all the challenges or the emotional challenges that are on the way of an artist. It's not very easy for an artist in the middle of so many other excellent artists, and from all the others in the past that have made amazing things. It's very hard emotionally to say, no, I have something new, and this is worth it. And that is obviously an emotional strength that each of us have or don't have. but there are techniques to overcome that, and there are things that can be shared on the process of making things to help to get there. So at the end, more than learning skills or more than learning tricks or techniques, I like to think that when I am a teacher, I'm helping people, or I'm sharing with people a way to overcome the difficulties of the creative process.
Wow, that's really inspiring. Thank you. In this interview, we would like to focus a bit more on your job of cartoonist. So can you present it a bit? What gets you to cartooning, actually?
Yeah, I will share again my screen to show you something. I did start as a cartoonist almost 20 years ago for a newspaper in Portugal. And I have to say that at the very beginning, I didn't know what a cartoon was about, because all the stories that I made were fiction, were invented. So what is this of doing political cartoon in a newspaper? It took me a while, but I ended up understanding that two things were needed, or three to be exact. First thing, I had to turn on the news. I had to turn on the media. I had to understand what the media was talking about. And I had to get more than one point of view, because different medias can have different points of view. It depends on the source that you're looking for to understand it. So the first thing was to understand what's going on, or to try to understand. The second step was to find my opinion. I had to find an opinion. Sometimes it's hard. Sometimes we can, in some issue, we can look on different perspectives about it, but I had necessarily to say, where do I stand in this issue? Even if I had doubts about it, where do I stand? And the third step that wasn't easy either was that I decided that my cartoons will rely mainly on drawings, not so much in words. So I had to find a simple and direct way to express my opinion about this subject for people in general that read a newspaper, which aren't just the specific people that bought my books, my comic books, for example, which was a much more specialized public. So this is much wider. So these are some of the cartoons that I made. The cartoons, the political cartoons have a characteristic, a very particular characteristic, is that they make sense the day they are published. Issues and events are changing all the time, and our perspective on them are changing all the time as well. So what I do draw about this subject today, in 2 days or 3 days' time, might not make that sense anymore. And what people can see today and say, aha, that's it. In 1 week, maybe they'll say, no, that's not the point. So it's very volatile. Obviously, I'm showing you these cartoons without that context. I did try to pick up some ones that we can still relate. For instance, this one was the moment that England, by a referendum, decided to leave Europe. So I was trying to find a way to express that feeling among the United Kingdom of leaving Europe. But for instance, there are a lot of my colleagues that concentrate a lot on doing the caricature of politicians. That's not exactly the sort of thing that drives me. For instance, I like this kind of subject. For instance, this cartoon was made some years ago. There was a time that a bacteria found in the fresh food caused alarm. I guess it all started in Germany. And for a while, suddenly, everybody was afraid, or in a completely rational way. about eating fresh foods because there was some bacteria that could come in it. So I do like this kind of nonsense that our daily life can have, and each time that it's possible, I can put it in my drawings. I guess that the way that I learned to enjoy more about my political cartoons is to try to give a different way to look on a subject. And in that sense, political cartoons can be a power to help to give another vision to subjects, because it can use drawing, but it can use humor. And the humor is allowed to say things that normally couldn't be said. So I get away with some things because I do them by drawing. If I was writing or trying to build a theory on it, maybe I wouldn't be able. So, I mean, this cartoon, for instance, it's about all these health issues. This wasn't particularly about nowadays about COVID. It was many years ago. If I remember, about the flu, the swine flu or the avian flu. But this, for me, it's more about this idea that sometimes media will terrify you, or media will push you very strongly to think or to face a reality in a certain way. This cartoon was from 2 years ago, for instance, and for me, he does represent a lot about the state of a lot of media nowadays. We do have the guy on a gray suit is a guy from Justice, from Ministério Público, that investigates. So he's investigated, and you can see that quite often some media are more interested in get a spectacular view or a sexy view or something that it's appealing for an audience as a story, rather to really look for facts or for some sort of serious investigation. So I know that this type of cartoon, for example, maybe it's not very popular among media, because I'm actually publishing a cartoon on media, talking about the media itself. Normally, I think media will prefer a cartoonist to talk about politicians, for instance. But that's something that I've learned as well through my process of doing political cartoon, is to understand this negotiation between the media and the world.
Awesome, thank you. So just to be sure that we really understand it, so when you see a news, you try to make a cartoon and then you propose it to a media, how it works, because like you said, news is really fast, so you really have to take the information and try to do something.
Yeah, what happened, for instance, is that I do cartoons weekly, once a week. So what happens is that, for instance, the supplement where I used to publish goes out on a Friday in the newspaper. So until Wednesday evening, so Wednesday evening, late evening, I had to get to send my cartoon. It had to be ready. So that's already a bit tricky, because in 2 days, a lot of things can change. Okay, so my cartoon on Friday might look slightly bit off the subject, but I will try to think that way. So I'm able to choose which subject, which issue I'm going to talk about it, meaning that normally I will have to grab an issue that is being talked, that it's polemic, or that everybody is talking about. Because if I don't, I might risk to draw about something that it's a little news. Most part of people won't understand, what is he talking about? What is he drawing about? So either I like it or not, I will have to navigate what it's mainly on the news. But as I said, the important thing is that, and that I think something that I would like to share with you, at the beginning, I thought that the political cartoons were about the world, about what's going on in the world. And after 2 years doing it, I found out that that wasn't correct. Political cartoons are about what the media say is happening in the world. And the fact is that that doesn't coincide necessarily, or we can say that never coincides. The sense that most part of media suffer the pressure of interests that can be political interests or economic interests, but interests. And what happens is that these interests, they will cook their news and they will send it to the media. And a lot of time, because the media, it's a machine, sometimes the media doesn't have the time or the will to digest these news that are presented to them. And sometimes they just copy paste it. Sometimes they will get this news, they can just all prepare for your news, and sometimes they just copied it and put it like that. Obviously, not all the media are like that. There are media that do investigations, and there's even media that say no, we won't believe anything that will come from the outside telling us what the news are. But so, for instance, if there's a very, very big issue, like for instance the issue we've been living all in the whole planet, like COVID, for 1 year, we can say that there are in the news that we read a lot of pressure that are being made about what sort of communication should be spread out through media. And so as a cartoonist, if I want to build up my own opinion, I have to try to read as many sources as I can. I have to learn what mean for each source. Are this newspaper, for instance, this newspaper or this TV channel, is it owned by companies that are interested that the vision about this issue is this? So I will try to see all these different visions because, and that's something that I think I've learned from my experience, it's very difficult this channel or I only trust this newspaper, for instance. There's always corners, little corners, where even the media that seems the most qualified, there's always a small corner where it just goes a bit off that. So I think the work of a political cartoonist is, first than anything else, it's the work of understanding how media works and how media portrays the world.
Thank you, Antonio, for this sharing about the difference between the world and the world through the media, and between the difference between the different media. We actually found your profile in the NGO Cartooning to Peace, which gathering a lot of cartoonists around the world. So we would like to know why you actually joined them.
I think the idea of Cartooning for Peace is a great idea because it tends to use the drawing and the political cartoon as an universal way to communicate and as a way to bring understanding about subjects. We know, for instance, and there are many members in Cartooning for Peace, there are areas in the world where doing political cartoon is a very risky activity. I myself know 2 or 3 people who've been in prison because they publish certain drawings that the politicians in power consider offenses. So just put them in jail for a while. And I even met 2 of the people who were killed in Charlie Hebdo, 2 of the cartoonists that were killed in that very tragic day. So I guess that cartooning for peace wants to bring that sense that, yes, we cartoonists, we do criticize, we do mock the politicians and the powers, but we can bring through our drawings a way to understand the world as well. And I think that's the most positive. It's like cartooning for peace is bringing all cartoonists into a big family, not about the differences, but about considering what we have in common as a community.
Thank you, Antonio. As you know, this month with Mais Cidadania, we are talking about media literacy. And so we would like you to contribute to this team with saying what link do you see or can you do between cartooning and media literacy?
Yeah, cartooning definitely is trying to explain things. I think that's very important, and especially for myself, the type of cartoon that I do, which is only drawing, I think the drawing has a tool of communication, have a very interesting power, which is nada stops you, Marie, to watch one of my drawings and to feel and think a different thing from the one that I was thinking when I've made that drawing. Drawing have this ability. You're free. Any of you are free to make your interpretation of that drawing. There isn't one interpretation for a drawing, not even the one from the artist. So I think that's a very interesting way of knowledge in media, especially because political cartoon lives in media, inside media. No? And that's a very interesting tool because of that, because it's not telling you you have to think this or you can't think this. Is giving you some space, is giving you humor, which I think humor is probably the best medicine that we've known from Paleolithic, probably since Paleolithic that we know humor is the only thing that always works. So it uses humor and it uses drawing, and you can see whatever you want in the drawing. So I guess as a way to show things, to give things to be seen, I think it's very, very important, more than for me 1,000 words.
Wow, thank you. Thank you for this rich exchange. And to end this interview, I would like to invite you to make a word to the audience, which is a lot of youngsters. So how do you think youngsters could be implicated in cartooning?
Well, you have to know where you stand. I guess that's the thing. It takes some time and it takes some effort to know where you stand, to get an opinion about things, to follow the others in general. Could that be through a WhatsApp group or through what you've seen in social media or whatever? It's easier. You just take it. To actually investigate a little bit, something that gives you some work, but at the end, you will feel the world, it's much larger in your head rather than being narrower. That's probably what I will say. The moment that you will have a larger vision of the world, you'll be able to draw anything.
Thank you. And to the end, what would you say to a youngster like us, young people who would like to become cartoonists? What kind of advice could you give?
You have to be persistent. I see from my daughter that it's difficult. Maybe I can remember myself when I was younger as well. Sometimes we do things to happen now, just now, give me now, happens now. And the only thing is, look at the weather seasons. I've been praying for summer to arrive, but there's nothing I can do. Summer will arrive when it will have to arrive. And I think to to get an artistic career or any career or anything that you want to afford, you will need time and persistence. And that's the only thing that I will say. Persistence will pay you. I can assure that to you.
Thank you, Antonio. Thank you a lot for this interview. It was really interesting.
Thank you, Marie.